Welcome to the Lucidus podcast, where I explore everything because I believe everything is connected to everything else. I also believe in the infinite, unbounded potential within each of us. And that potential is fascinating to me. If it's there for all of us, what makes it so challenging, difficult, tricky, mysterious for us to tap into it? And why? Why isn't it just at our fingertips? Why aren't we all living our maximum potential? What I want to talk about today is nothing, everything, what's on my mind, what's in my heart, things I've been reading lately. I'm going to start with words that are on my pillowcase this morning. And those words are HereBe, AmWhole. HereBe, AmWhole. And why are those words on my pillowcase? And no one actually put those words deliberately on my pillowcase. They're here by mistake, and that's why I've decided to share them. So, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago, I was busy doing something, and I had quickly written something down. As I wrote down these 4 lines, and it was just writing, I wanted to capture the essence of those lines I had just written for myself. They were kind of like a compass or a guide. And so I looked at the first line and I realized the words were basically telling me to be here. And I looked at the next line and it was like be. And the next line, the words distilled down were whole. And the fourth line, the words distilled down were am. So it was here, be, whole, am. Those were the 4 lines distilled down into 1 word each. And I was like, here, be, whole, am. And I thought, I need to remember those words. I want to live into these words. And not that they're not like other words that everyone else has always said, but these were my words that came to me in a way that felt meaningful and powerful. I want to capture these words for me. So I quickly grabbed this red pen and I write on my inner forearm, just above my wrist, I write, here be, whole am. Here be, whole, no, I'm getting it wrong. It's here be, am, whole. I have to look at the pillowcase to see what it says. Here be, am, whole. Okay, so I write it on my arm and I was like, okay, I'm going to remember that because now I've got it written here. I'm going to remember it. It's important. And then when I got home, I actually wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then a few days went by, and I ended up throwing the paper away. I was like, those words don't really mean anything. I just threw the paper away, and obviously the words had washed off my arm, and so they were gone. Poof, gone. And then I'm laying here this morning. It's actually a Saturday morning. I'm letting myself be lazy. I don't have anything I have to get up for. And I open the curtains, and I look over on my pillowcase. I have a white pillowcase. And I look over, and there are these words, this like little pink stain on my pillowcase where the words from my arm like transferred to the pillowcase. I don't really know how, but somehow the words transferred from my arm to the pillowcase. So I mean, they're awfully smudged and blurry, but on my pillow, there are these fake, if I didn't know what it said, it would be difficult. The word whole is probably the easiest one to see. And now that you know what? The words are here be, am, whole. Because I have to read it backwards, right? Because the words are backwards on my pillowcase. So the words are here be, am, whole. Only it's totally backwards. I'm reading it wrong. It's am, whole, here be. Okay, because I had seen it before, I was kind of, now that I'm reading it backwards and the way it should be read, because it's gone, because it's a transfer from my arm. It's am, whole, HereBe. I wasn't looking very closely. I just thought I knew what it said. Anyway, so now I have these words, and it was a permanent Sharpie that I had used. So I guess maybe this nice little pink smudge will stay on my pillowcase after I wash it. Who knows? So I'm laying here this morning and I see those words and I'm laughing because I was like, oh, they were so important to me in the moment. And I was like, this message that I feel like has come and something for me to live into and live toward. I'm going to write it on my arm. I wrote it on paper. Didn't matter. Poof, gone. Gone, 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 gone. How many times do we feel like we get that guidance or that direction or that something meaningful to hold on to and live by and direct us, almost like you're in a stormy, something stormy and you find the rope that's going to lead you home and then you let go of it. Well, it's kind of like what I did, right? So when I talk about this infinite, unbounded potential within each of us, how many times do we get a hold of it and then let go? I got these great words. I wrote them down on my own body and on a paper, and poof, they just sort of disappeared. And if it hadn't transferred itself onto the pillowcase, poof, I wouldn't even remembered that this happened. So here we have this infinite, unbounded potential within each of us, and it is so damn hard to stay attuned to it, to stay connected to it, to stay aligned with it. And why is that? Why is that? Well, for me, I put priority on a lot of other things. Definitely on just survival, like making sure I have shelter and food, water, safety. I can't say that that's not important. Obviously they are. I wonder though if we put too much importance on some of those things. I would say I put a lot of my energy goes into doing the things that I think are helping me, and they may be, I don't know, but maybe they're not. And that's just a tricky one. I think that we're constantly navigating in life. Am I actually doing the things that are helping me tap into my greatest potential? Or am I doing things out of habit, out of the word comes is desperation. I think that's actually a good one simply because it sort of grabs at many things. So maybe we're desperate for love, maybe we're desperate for attention, maybe we're desperate for money, for power, for control, for whatever. So I actually want to totally jump from this train to the next train, which is going along beside us, which is I just finished reading a book yesterday. I think I read this book in 2 or 3 days. I read it really fast. I think might have just been 2 days. I kind of had to get through this book. And I knew before I started it, I needed to. Again, it was another one from my son. My son is brilliant. He finds the most amazing books. This book is by Olivia, Butler. It's Octavia Butler. Yeah, Octavia Butler. Butler is the last name. I've read some of her other books. This one is called Kindred. Kindred. It's about our kindred, our ancestors. So it's about, I won't say too much. I'm going to try not to spoil it, but no guarantees here. I won't tell you how it ends, but, well, actually, if I say too much, I will tell you how it ends, which I'd really like people to read, so I have to be careful what I say here. I was about to tell you the text I just sent to my son this morning after having finished the book last night and letting it mull over in my head, in my heart, my conscious, my subconscious. But I can't because it'll give it away. but it's about, I highly recommend everyone read it. Even if you don't care about your ancestors, believe in your ancestors, they mean nothing to you. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be that. If you do have a tie to your ancestors, I highly encourage it. A woman who goes back and in time, not by her choice. Anyway, she's pulled back and forth in time. And she realizes she's going back to one of her ancestors who was like 150 years ago. So, and in that, we get to consider some questions about our ancestry and ourselves. And I can ask these questions that came to me as I was reading that really were gnawing at me and a bit disturbing, and that is, what would you ask your ancestors to go through in order for you to be here and alive? Like, if you knew, if you went back and you could see what they were going through so you could be here, maybe it was just suffering through famine and disease. Maybe it's suffering through terrible warfare. Maybe it's suffering through domestic abuse and violence, sexual abuse and violence. Maybe it's suffering through slavery, serfdom. What would you ask? And if you went back and you saw what they were doing, would you ask them, and they were suffering, would you ask them to continue suffering so that you could live? Like, that was one of the most powerful questions. It was just nagging at me, like it wouldn't go away. And I just thought, my God, if I went back and I saw this kind of suffering, would I ask my ancestors to continue living through it so I could be born? Or would I say, just enough? Like, they just don't. You don't have to live through this for me to live. Would I give up my own life if it somehow could free them from that suffering and misery? That wasn't necessarily a choice that wasn't really the premise of the book. I'm telling you what my experience of the book was. And then the next thing I asked myself is, what would I suffer through for my ancestors or for my progeny? Like, what would I suffer through to help them live? And there's no guarantee that they're going to live a great life. I'm just saying that they will be alive, right? That I will continue to live so that they can be alive. And I thought about, for her, the gap is 150 years, so she's going back to see an ancestor that's 150 years before. So there's a huge gap. They don't know each other at all. They live in totally different worlds. Many, many differences. And I asked myself, and I thought, well, if you asked me about, like, what would I do for my kids, I'd do just damn near anything, right? But if you asked me about an ancestor 150 years ago from now, so like say in what would it be? It's 20, it would be like 2150. Let's say it's 2200. Somebody that's going to live in 2200. 2222. Someone's going to live in 2222. I would say, I don't know, like, not really that much. Like, they're so distant from me. They're so removed from me. Like, what do they matter? I don't know. I just think our ancestry is fascinating. We came from people, and some of those people are as real as us. Like, that's the other thing, is I always think my ancestors are dead. But somehow they're not dead. This book was like, no, they're not dead. And they weren't dead. They were as alive as I am. And they wanted many of the same things I wanted. The intrinsic desires of being loved and held and respected, honored. Maybe they wanted power, money, power, control, whatever. And I thought, I've always just sort of been like, oh, well, now they're dead and they lived whatever they lived, and isn't that nice? Or I don't know. I don't really know, but this book has jarred my feelings and thinkings about my ancestors. And the big one truly was, if I went back and I saw their suffering, the other part of the question was, would I change the way I live today? And the answer was, oh my God, yes. So the first one was, if I went back and I could see some of the suffering that we all have ancestors who have gone through stuff. So if we go back and we see the suffering that they're going through, would we want and if there was a choice, would we release them from that suffering, knowing that we would never be born? And I have to say, there were times in the book where the answer was yes. If I was taken back and I was shown immense suffering of my ancestors and was given the choice, and they also too were like, I don't want to live through this. Would I release them from that and not be born? And my answer was yes. It wasn't worth it to me. It just, that kind of stuff, to see someone suffer in that way. And I'm not even doing the suffering, but someone is suffering. I was like, it just didn't seem worth it. And then what if I joined them in that suffering, that I was suddenly suffering alongside them? I was like, yeah, then for sure, let's just end this. What is this suffering all about? And it wasn't really a suffering that they had that could be controlled, right? They're in a situation where, okay, yes, Viktor Frankl, you always have your mind. But anyway, for me, it just didn't seem worth it. And then I asked myself if I would do it for a distant ancestor, and I didn't think I would. I guess I would for my children to some extent, but even at some point it seemed like it just was too much. And I just thought, I just don't even know. I just can't even fathom the suffering. So, and then the second question, which kept coming to me, or part of the first one, which is, if you saw and experienced the suffering that your ancestors have gone through, would you change the way you live today? If you could actually go back and see it and possibly experience it yourself, when you came back, would you change the way you live? And the answer was yes, again, unequivocally. Well, that's okay. This is where we wrap into my first thing. The answer was unequivocally yes. But that's just like writing words on my arm. That's just the answer. But to put it into practice, to put it into motion, to bring it to life, to actually make the change in my life, that is literally a beneficent honoring of all those who have come before me, who have gone through unspeakable things, so that I could be alive. And they didn't do it for me. I don't believe they did it for me. I don't believe I'm living my life for, the person born in 22. I believe I'm living my life for me, but in so doing, I do make it possible for others to live, my progeny to live. So the question now is, the one question that I can actually answer and do something about is, if I knew what my ancestors had been through, if I could go back and look at it and experience it, would I change the way I live my life? Unequivocal answer, yes. Okay, so what are can I imagine what some of my ancestors have been through? First of all, you don't have to go very far back. If you start looking at your ancestral tree, you don't have to go back very far before you see that it's exponential, right? It's literally exponential, meaning you go from 2 people to 4 people to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64. In just a few generations, we're talking thousands of people, and a few more, we're talking tens of thousands of people. I mean, you are related to so many people. Millions upon millions, probably billions. I don't really know the math. You're related to so many people that you can almost guarantee that in those millions of people, just about every experience has happened. So if you look at the world today and you think of the atrocities, let's start at home. Domestic abuse, 100%. Someone in your lineage experienced severe domestic abuse, possibly could have been killed. We all are related to women, and so women were easily killed. So you probably have had someone die from a domestic abuse, because we all come from women. In the home, also children. Children were often killed in domestic abuse. Okay, so when we all are related to children as well, so we probably have some distant dead sibling. Also in the home, sexual abuse, sexual violence, sexual abuse, blah, blah, blah. Sure, that absolutely 100% happened. Lots of terrible things happen in the home. All these ancestors we have, it's happened. Would we want them to have to live through that so that we could live? And I know this seems very macabre and just bizarre, but go with me here. Okay, so stepping outside of the house, violence between neighbors. I think we've seen lots of that in the last, at least in my lifetime, in the last 50 years. Plenty of neighbors killing neighbors because of religion, race, whatever. We don't have to look very far. Probably we have ancestors who have experienced that, and I just want to point out on both sides, there's no way you have that all of your ancestors were the victims. You absolutely have ancestors that were the perpetrators. We can all pretty much, and same with the sexual violence happening in the house. We have both been our ancestors have been the sexual perpetrators, our ancestors have been the sexual victims. Like, we are all of it. So be very careful when you go back, not to decide that your ancestors were only one thing. Your ancestors were all of them. Read the book Kindred. Okay, Octavia Butler. Okay, so then we have neighbor upon neighbor. We have killed people and been, ancestors. Our ancestors have killed people and been killed by people. Okay, then step out into the bigger society. Massive wars. I mean, wars today we get to be relatively clean about it. I know that's a terrible word. There's nothing clean about it, but obviously wars have happened forever. As long as we have history, there's wars. So imagine living through some of these horrible wars, bloodshed, the absolute tyranny of kings, queens, monarchs. I mean, just all of it. So if you can look around today and just get an inkling of the things that could happen, it's happened. Your ancestors have lived through it. The famines that were, and that's not even to talk about natural disaster, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, famines, the natural famines that would happen, disease, all kinds of, just horrible, horrible things. Slavery. We could also call it serfdom. You could call it all kinds of things. So if you stop and assume that all of these very horrible things have happened to your ancestors, and I wasn't going to say this, but it could be happening to you right now. It could be happening to someone you know right now. It's not even your ancestors. Would you change the way you live? Knowing what? others have gone through. For you to be alive. And they may not have done it for you, but they did go through it, and you are alive. They may be going through it now, and you are alive. I think what this book brought home was a different understanding of my responsibility. Or, it's not true, it's not my responsibility. I don't have to be responsible for it. I can just be alive and go through my life 100%. But should I choose, I feel like I've been shown and experienced a little of the responsibility I could assume, and the responsibility of being alive. The responsibility of being alive. The words are AmWhole, HereBe. That in the responsibility I feel for each moment are to begin to embody in each moment, AmWhole, HereBe. In this moment, I am whole. In this moment, I am here to be. AmWhole, HereBe. There are so many nuances about this book that my son and I haven't had a chance to in person talk about it, but I'm excited to parse it all out. So one of the things I was very proud of myself for reading this book. My son read it, 6-8 months ago, and I tend to read books soon after when he thinks it's a book I should read. But at the time he said, "No, Mom, you shouldn't read this one." And as I said, I had read some of Octavia Butler's other books, and I knew how profoundly they affected me. And so I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Yeah, not this one, not yet." And I said, "Okay." And then for some reason, I just felt like it was time. It was like, okay, I can read this book, it's time. I'm so glad I waited. It was very difficult to read. That's part of why I read it so fast. I couldn't sort of marinate in the difficulty of the book. I needed to get through it so I could hold the whole story and work with it in its wholeness and not in its parts. But I can't say enough about. And I know I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you have a close relationship with your ancestors. It's far enough away. It doesn't matter. It's okay if you don't have a relationship with your ancestors, you're not interested. I still think you should read the book. The other part that's really fascinating is we all think, I don't know that this is true, not all of us. From my perspective, many of us believe we would never do certain things because we've seen it in history and we would be smarter than that. And this book really challenges that notion. That somehow because we're different than those who lived in the past, and we really aren't. And this book does a good job of showing that no, if you were put in that same situation, you would start to behave like everyone else has behaved. There's a reason people behave certain ways in certain situations. It's because we're human, and we all have very similar responses. Maybe you're one of the few that has a different one, but most of us are going to respond a certain way to violence, a certain way to suffering, So the fact that we think we'll behave differently than others is probably one of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves. The lie that it won't happen to me, or it won't happen, I won't let it happen, or I'll do it differently. No, it's so, things like this are so insidious, and we so quickly accommodate horrors. We so quickly accommodate horrors. We so quickly accommodate violence. It's called self-preservation, right? It's crazy. And this book does a really good job of showing you that and asking you to question, like, would you really? What? I don't know. There's so much in the book. And I feel like waking up this morning, finding these words on my pillow that I'd forgotten. Like, I feel like the words are the answer to the question I've been asking, if I could go back and see what my ancestors have lived through. I do have a close relationship with my ancestors. I do care for and love and respect them very much. And I feel like they've supported me on my journey. And if I could go back and see some of what they've lived through, that I literally can't imagine, would I change the way I live today? And my answer is yes. But I also feel like this complacency. Like, of course my answer is yes. But am I actually going to do anything about it? And if I am, how do I actually do it? How do we actually make the changes in our life that we want? That we really, really want? Like, how do we keep holding on to that? The words, the message, the guidance, the compass, that single thread that will lead us through this whole tapestry of confusion. We could hold on to that thread, not let go. AmWhole, HereBe. If I could hold on to that, I couldn't even hold on to it for a freaking day. And I wrote it down 2 different places. I mean, what we're up against here is pretty colossal. It's just crazy. So I'm going to write those words down again. I mean, I'm grateful they're on my pillow. I'm glad my arm stained my pillow. It's been hot. I was thinking about it. It's been hot, and sometimes I wake up kind of sweaty. I think maybe I sweated it off my arm onto my pillow. It's hot July. I'm grateful I did. I'm grateful for the book. I'm grateful for all the books my son's giving me. I'm grateful that he was wise enough to tell me to wait to read it. I needed to, well, here's one thing I'll give away. There is, well, I guess I won't give it away. But read the book, Kindred. It's not a very long book. It's a book that will challenge you, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with life, your relationship with morality, your relationship possibly with your ancestors. Doesn't have to. Your relationship with the past. Let's put it at that. Your relationship with the past and your relationship with the future. I think each of our relationships with the past is very, very different. I've never talked to anyone who has a relationship with the past with their ancestors the way I do. Mine's not better in any way. I mean, it's just always so different. But why that's interesting is I think that the relationship we have with the past is part of the structure that determines how we have a relationship with the future. Meaning, I was talking about this in my last podcast in EMDR. Before I did EMDR, I spent many, many months building a foundation and a structure that could hold me and me as a changing being. But I built this, I could feel it inside of me. I built some kind of inner structure inside of me so that when I dismantled the rape and the trauma, I still had enough integrity as this changing, malleable being that I could hold myself together while the rest of it was dismantled. In the same way, the relationship you have with the past is basically your relationship with time and space. You have to build a foundation and a structure that can withstand the changes of time and space, so that when you go into the past and you look at the past, you're able to still hold yourself in the present and live into the future. But the structure you build that allows you to move through time and space, because we are in this changing, malleable reality, whatever you build that allows you to go into the past and allows you to be present is the same structure that's going to allow you to live into your future. So your relationship with the past is literally your relationship with the future. It's the same structure moving through time and space. So if you have no relationship with your past, you probably have no relationship with your future. Am I any kind of guru here? Nope. I'm just spouting what I sense is true. But it also means if you have no relationship with the past, I also think it means you probably have no relationship with the present. Whatever the foundation and the structure is of your ability to move through time and space in a cohesive narrative, in some kind of cohesive narrative, so that the past does flow into the present, does flow into the future, that structure is not going to change. It is the same. Time and space are way too... You can't rebuild your structure when you try to move from the past to the present to the future. Time and space permeate everything, so you can't... if you're moving into the past, that is the structure you're in the present with, and that is the structure you're moving forward with. What am I trying to say? I don't know, because I've never tried to say it, but I'm trying to say it right now because it feels like it's really important for me to figure this out. The structure that I have built so that I can move into the past and see and know and experience and deal with the past is the same structure that I see and know and deal with the present, is the same structure that I see and know and deal with the future. My past, present, and future are all dependent on the structure that I've built that can move as a cohesive narrative from past, present, and future. This cohesive narrative, past, present, future. So if I want to change my relationship with the present, I need to build the structure that allows me to do so that I engage with the present in a certain way, having built a structure that can do that. I would say that's what some of my meditation does, but not just my meditation. That's many of the things I do. Build a structure so that I can be present with the present. Strengthen my presence. In doing so, I'm able to strengthen my presence of the past and my presence of the future, or my presence in the past and my presence in the future, my presence in the present. What I'm saying is, whatever relationship you have with and in the present moment is continuous through time and space. You will have that same relationship when you go into and with the past, that same relationship into and with the future. You must have a cohesive narrative through and with time and space. And you can build it any way you want. But just know that the relationship you have with the past is the relationship you have with the present, is the relationship you have with the future. Because all of it is just time and space. And we've just given words to past, present, future. What you're talking about is the relationship you have with time and space. What is your relationship with time and space? So this book has changed my relationship. This book has changed my experience of time and space. And in so doing, it is asking me to change my relationship with time and space. My relationship with the present moment. And thereby with all moments. AmWhole, HereBe. It's interesting if I allow myself to fall into that for a moment and I just am whole, HereBe in this moment. And that's the container or the structure that I've built. And I am whole and here I be. Am whole, HereBe. As I sort of slide myself backward in time through my whole life, I can experience that in every single moment of my life, I am whole, here I be. And if I now slide this container, this structure, this built that I built of AmWhole, HereBe, if I slide it into my future, there is no moment in my future where I am not whole. I am whole, here I be. And that's what I'm trying to say, that you don't have to worry so much about past, present, future and get stuck in a logical, linear time frame. You can simply just have a relationship with time and space. Because that's all it is. In time and space, I am whole and here I be. It doesn't matter where you put me in time and space. I am whole, here I be. I really like that. That's very helpful. And it also feels sterile. Meaning I feel like it is 100% true. And there is more. And I don't know what. I just know that somehow it's like I feel like what I'm describing here and what I'm stumbling upon is a very, very mind-focused, logical, which is important and is true. But there is a whole another heart, the heart of time and space. So the logician of time and space, that structure is am here, whole be. The heart of time and space, it's like it takes that logical structure and it sees and it feels and it knows all things. It's like the first one is the witness and the second one is the experiencer. And I think that's the closest I've ever come to understanding what I think I am. I am sort of this very sterile witnesser, AmWhole, HereBe, where I just witness in time and space, all things. And then there's another part of me, and it doesn't have to be another part of me, but there is this experience of that. There's the experiencer, there's the witness, and there's the experiencer. And the experiencer sees and feels and knows all the things that are happening in time and space. And I'm not one or the other. And it feels like I'm trying to hold two opposites right now. But as I've said before, I believe that's actually where true power lies, in being able to hold opposites, or they're seemingly opposite. But one cannot exist without the other. There's nothing to witness without an experiencer. There's no experience without a witness. So I would say this is like one of my moments where, this infinite, unbounded potential, for me, I've landed on something that is it's almost like a gift I've unwrapped in this moment, and I see, feel, and know I'm experiencing things differently. I'm witnessing them differently. But what I know of these moments is they slip away. They become stains on my pillowcase because I forget them. How do I remember? How do I follow this thread? How do I live a different life today in honor of those who have come before, in remembrance of what many of them went through? And it doesn't even have to be that they went through it for me, just in honor of what they've been through. Honoring my own life with that sacred witnessing and experiencing. And that, I would say, is the premise of my whole, of Lucidess, of the whole reason I started this, the whole reason I continue it. Those moments of brilliance that we have, they can change us if we let them. I would say my latest moment of brilliance was in reading the book. My brilliance was in experiencing and witnessing my ancestors in a way that has brought them alive. No longer sort of dead ghosts, but alive. don't know if I'm going to wash my pillowcase anytime soon. I'm going to, and what's funny is, I guess, I don't know why I haven't noticed it in the last week. But I'm glad I noticed it today. And I'm going to write the words down and do my best to build a new structure to experience and witness time and space. And part of that structure will include a hearth, a place of lighting a flame and honoring my ancestors. In a way, honoring them in their aliveness, not in their deaths. That's the words the best I can think of now. I've always, somehow it's always been like honoring their, I don't know, maybe I got it wrong, but it sounds kind of dumb as I say it now. I feel like I've been honoring their deaths and honoring them as dead people. And that feels wrong, that not wrong, but it's like the lens that I've been looking through is sort of been cracked, and I've like repaired it, and now I don't look at my ancestors as dead people. I literally witness and experience them as alive, like they're alive. They're alive. Their lives are alive. They are living. I honor them as living alive and living their lives. They're not really these dead ghosts anymore. I'm not sure quite how I got off on that. That seems very strange now. Because of course it's funny, I feel resistance to saying what I'm feeling because I'm afraid whoever's listening is listening going, she's crazy. They're dead. They're dead. And I'm just like, no, they're not. Somehow they are alive in their life. They are as alive in their lives as I am alive in mine. They are as alive in their lives as I am in mine. And that's really beautiful, that we're living our lives alive together throughout time and space. So I say it again because I feel like this is going to be this is a really big ask of me. I literally forgot it and had to find it tattooed on my pillowcase. and I'm pretty good with at keeping track of messages. And this message got so lost that I had to tattoo it unconsciously on my pillowcase to get it through. I want to reconstruct my relationship with time and space such that I am whole, HereBe. My relationship with time and space is am whole, HereBe. And in that relationship as witnesser and experiencer, I build a hearth. I light an ember. And I remember all the other lives, all the other living lives of those who've become before. It seems bizarre now that I ever thought anyone or anything was dead, because everything in the universe, everything in this cosmos, everything in time and space is alive. There's really nothing dead. So it's interesting to me. And now that I think about it, my mother is getting close to passing. And I have a feeling, I felt this for a long time, and it hasn't made sense, and today it finally makes sense. I feel like I will grieve and mourn her passing in a very different way than I ever thought possible. I don't know. Because she isn't dying to me. And I've said this to my therapist, I've said this to my kids, I've said this to other people, where I've realized that so much of what my mother and I are going to do is going to happen after she passes. I know she'll be dead, but she won't be dead. She's not dead. Nothing dead in the universe. She will not be in a body. I feel like she and I will do a lot of work when she passes, or we will do a lot of something when she passes. I don't know what. I don't know how. But I have felt that for many, many, many months. And now as I understand that in this hearth, in this ember, is her living life. Is her living life. I don't even really know that I know what I'm saying. Not intellectually, anyway. I'm sure I have these conversations a lot with myself, and I'll look back. I wasn't sure if I should or if I wanted to capture this, and then I decided I did, because in a year I'll look back, or in, I don't know when, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, who knows, but sometime in a different time and space, I'll look back at this and I'll be like, oh, that's so funny. I get all that now. But that was me planting the seeds. So this is one of those conversations I have with myself where I'm planting seeds. I don't really understand all that I'm saying. I don't really understand what I'm doing. I don't really understand where I'm going. I don't really understand how to do it. I don't understand so much. But I understand there's something here in this moment of time and space, and I'm doing my best to tend it. And I tend it with words, I tend it with attention, I tend it with presence, I tend it with curiosity, I tend it by just like, I'm like tilling, I'm just sitting here tilling in this time and space, just like, what is here, what is here, what is here? And even if the same thing coming up, if the same thing keeps coming up, I actually know I've got the seed, you know. AmWhole, HereBe, AmWhole, HereBe. So I found the seed. I don't really know what this seed is. I don't know how to grow it. I don't know how to tend it. I don't know what it's going to become. None of that matters. I've learned enough to know that, no, you found a seed, and this seed is so important. You tattooed it on your pillow without thinking about it, and you're going to tend this seed. You're now going to tend this seed. And someday in the future, you'll look back and you'll smile, because the seed will have grown, and you will understand it more fully, and you will think how sweet it was that you still had the youthful innocence and hope and faith to plant a seed, to tend it, and trust what it became. Trust what I become, trust who I become. So when I think about posting this, there is like no word that encompasses. I think I'll just have to call it AmWhole, HereBe, because we traversed a lot. I'll include a link to Octavia Butler's Kindred book. I wish everybody would read it. It's also, I am very afraid that in America right now we think that we've grown up and that we're going to do it differently, and that we would never go back to some of the horrible things that have happened in the past, whether in this nation or others, and we absolutely would. I would love everyone to read the book and to recognize that as a grown-up and civilized as we believe we are still as human as our ancestors, as human as human. So you don't have to read this book for any particular reason. I promise you'll find something in there that profoundly affects you. And I would say, when it does, consider your relationship with time and space. Consider your relationship with time and space, and how would you like to mature your relationship with time and space. And I use the word mature because mature has an element of health. A mature relationship is one that provides health. So how do you have a healthy relationship with time and space? How do you mature your relationship with time and space? Maturing your relationship with time and space, if we all did that, it would profoundly change the way we all live, which is what I'm asking of myself, and it feels impossible. Truly, I feel like what I'm asking myself is impossible. So, but every podcast I say the infinite, unbounded potential. It feels impossible. And if we go way, 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 way back to the beginning of the year, when I wrote down some of the things I was called toward, do you remember like number 7 on the list? It was accept the impossible. And it's funny because I was looking at my list the other day and I realized I'd done them all. Not that I've accomplished them all, but all of them are in motion except that one. And I was like, accept the impossible. Still have no idea what that is. And in this moment, I just got it. I am being asked to accept the impossible, which is to mature my relationship with time and space. To mature my relationship with time and space, and mature it in such a way that right now it feels impossible that I could ever do this task. But that's what I feel called to do. I'm going to plant this seed, AmWhole, HereBe, and tend it, and we shall see. We shall see. I imagine this seed might be a lifetime of tending. Who knows? So, I wish you all the very best. I wish you a mature and healthy relationship with time and space, as I endeavor to do the same with myself. And I wish for you a moment where you see the beauty of sorrow. I was talking to a friend the other day and telling her about this amazing moment I had in meditation. And it happened, my dad died in 2016. He died in February of 2016. And it just so happened I had scheduled my 10-day Vipassana meditation in March. So a couple of weeks after his death, I went and did my 10-day. And I remember thinking when I went in, I wonder how, my grieving for my dad will show up. And I didn't really think about it again. And I don't remember if it was day 6 or 7, but closer to the end of it, there was a moment where I was deep in meditation, very much just a witness, less of an experiencer, more in the state of just witnessing, the body sensations and experiences. And as I'm scanning my body, I start to feel tears rolling down my cheeks. And I noticed that there's like this slight shaking to my body. And I was a little confused at first because I was so much in the space of the witness. I hadn't realized what I was not as connected to sort of the emotional experience. And I realized I was crying. And I was like, it was such a beautiful, tender moment. As the witness, I realized my body was grieving the loss of my father. And I just witnessed it. And it was so beautiful to witness sorrow. And I could feel the sorrow in my body. I could feel this like shaking as my body cried. I could feel the tears continue to stream down my face. And what was so touching to me, just simply as a witness, I didn't feel sad in any way, but to witness the body in a space of sorrow, experiencing sorrow. So I was witnessing my body experiencing sorrow, and it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And I thought, why don't we see our body experiencing sorrow as a beautiful thing? It was sweet, and it was tender, and it was deep, and it was profound. I hope that you have a moment where you experience sorrow as beautiful. Where you experience sorrow as beautiful. I think sorrow might be, for me, the most beautiful experience. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I hope you all have a beautiful day.